What happened? Why were the ancestral families running from the Pantheon?
At some point several centuries ago, the ancestral families took a routine expedition looking for new lands. Unfortunately, on this expedition, they unknowingly arrived at Pantheon. As I understand it, the Pantheons had spotted their ship long before they hit the shore, and they were stalking them. The entire crew was ravaged moments after arriving, the Pantheons unalived all but one of the crewmates. They are far from ignorant. If anything, their levels of intellect are far beyond what we can even fathom due to their lack of a cognitive ability to feel sympathy. They realized wherever this ship had come from was an abundant new source of food. They searched the ship inside and out, found the crew's maps, and forced the one remaining crewmate to steer the ship back to the ancestral lands. As I'm sure you could imagine, this marked a new age of chaos. Within the ancestral lands, they didn't even know what hit them. At this point, Pantheons had officially invaded the ancestral lands. Villages were being ravaged and feasted upon in the middle of the night, and by sunrise, they were nowhere to be seen. But the Pantheons weren't satisfied with feasting on the common folk, They wanted to locate and exterminate the higher authority, to kind of take hold of this newfound territory. And so the ruling families, the Vanderleys, the Constantines, took notice of these villages being ravaged. They began sending out fleets of men to patrol and look for this mysterious threat. Well, as you could imagine, those fleets of men never returned, except for one young man who'd allegedly came back to the Constantines' castle in the middle of the night in a horrific state of shock and asked to speak to Richard Constantine himself about what he encountered in the villages. And due to the nature of the situation, the guards granted him access to enter Richard's quarters. Richard, looking at him with a frighteningly stern expression, says to the young man, "You've abandoned your fellow men. I suppose you've come to me bearing 20 lives worth of insight." The young man swallows his fear and says, "Sir, listen, I'm afraid we've got quite a problem on our hands here." He goes, "I saw men, groups of them, but they were not like us. They were monstrously featured, tall, pale," he says, "sir. Their eyes were bright white." And at that point, Richard's expression kind of shifted from frustration to a look of fear nobody had ever seen him show. See, Richard Constantine, although never having encountered Pantheon himself, he'd heard stories, what he thought was folklore, from his ancestors about these people who lived in the Darklands. He was able to put two and two together based on the young man's description, and he knew without a doubt that they did not stand a chance. And in a state of panic, he says, "Young man, go alert the Council of Navigation. We sail at dawn. And for the love of God, whatever you do, stay inside until sunrise." It was at this point that these higher-ups, the ancestral families, would sail from the ancestral lands and discover the ice wall, as well as the lands within it. Or, what we all know as our modern world.
My God, that's why they collapsed all the exit passages. It wasn't to keep us in. It was to keep them out.